The first time I spotted Karen that morning, she was planted in the harsh beam of the rising sun, hands braced on her hips like a guard protecting the gates of some imaginary empire only she believed existed. My car eased to a stop at the metal gates of our Hoa community, the one she ran like it was the crown jewel of Buckingham Palace, and that familiar weight of dread dropped straight into my stomach. Today wasn't just another day of dealing with her nonsense. Today, a delivery truck was bringing the small, carefully wrapped coffin meant for my newborn. My heart throbbed with a grief so raw it bordered on physical pain, and all I wanted was to bring it home quietly, not wrestle with someone who treated shared property like her personal kingdom. I tapped the horn once, sharply. She didn't so much as blink. "Excuse me," I called out, my voice cracked but controlled. "I need to get through." Her eyes narrowed into sharp little daggers. "Not until your paperwork is verified. You know the rules." Rules. The same rules that never seemed to apply to her sunrise coffee strolls, her midweek jogs, or her dog's weekly victory lap around the block. I swallowed, trying to steady my voice. I started, then stopped. Explaining was pointless. Showing even a sliver of vulnerability would be wasted on her. "Birth certificate," she demanded flatly, like the world existed only for her checklist. Heat rushed up my neck. "It's a coffin, Karen. My baby." Her expression twisted, confused, like she had no frame of reference for real grief. "You'll have to leave it outside. I can't bend rules because someone is having a funeral. That's not protocol." I pressed my palm to the steering wheel, grounding myself. When I heard the metal latch click as she walked over to lock the gate fully, my stomach lurched. That tiny sound snapped the last thread of rational patience I'd been gripping. This wasn't petty Hoa micromanaging anymore. It was cruel, yet somehow, my voice stayed low, carved with exhaustion and quiet rage. "You realize this is unthinkable, right?" Karen tilted her head like I'd accused her of something scandalous. "Unthinkable, sweetheart. It's Hoa policy. Rules are rules." Behind me, the delivery truck honked, the driver clueless to the storm unfolding. The tension thickened, heavy and suffocating in the humid morning air. For a second, I felt myself slipping toward giving up. Then the unfairness slammed into me all at once. I was staring at a locked gate, while my baby's coffin sat a few blocks away, and the woman blocking me was standing there, smugly, convinced she was right then. I decided she was about to learn a lesson she'd carry for the rest of her life. The metal click of the gate echoed like a challenge. The truck horn blared again, a frantic sound that only deepened the surreal horror of the moment. I stepped out of my car, gravel crunching under my shoes, and faced Karen head on. Her sunglasses hid whatever sliver of humanity she might have had. They reflected nothing but sun and stubbornness. "Karen," I said, forcing calm. "Unlock the gate. Now." Her lips thinned. "And I need proper authorization. No exceptions." A flicker of disbelief sparked inside me. This wasn't a parking dispute. This wasn't missing paperwork for a community flower box. This was my child, and somehow the universe had decided to test me with her of all people. "Authorization," I echoed, my voice tight. "Feels kind of irrelevant when what we're talking about is a coffin, don't you think?" She sniffed, head tilting again, like I'd said something obscene. "I don't make the rules. You signed the Hoa agreement. You knew." Behind me, the driver muttered impatiently, the truck engine rumbling. I shot him a glance, then fixed my stare back on Karen. "Do you understand how monstrous this is?" She pursed her lips, looking at the locked latch like it was a sacred relic she'd sworn to protect. "I am simply enforcing standards," she said. "Standards. Standards didn't care about death. Standards didn't care about grief that left your hands trembling and your knees threatening to buckle." I stepped closer, letting sarcasm bleed into the quiet fury simmering inside me. "Yeah, standards. Standards that would rather traumatize a grieving parent than, don't know, be human." Her face twitched barely, but I saw it. A tiny fracture in her iron mask. A sliver of irritation, of control slipping. I tasted a cold hint of victory, but I couldn't let her reclaim her footing. "Not today," I said, raising a hand in forced patience. "I'm not asking you to break policy. I'm asking you to be a person. Unlock the gate." her jaw locked tight. Silence stretched thin. Finally, she said, almost cheerily, you could call the board. Let them decide if you get an exception. I wanted to scream. Instead, something shifted inside me, something quiet and resolute. This wasn't just about the gate anymore. This was about showing her that cruelty dressed up as regulations had limits. That she couldn't treat grief like an inconvenience interrupting her morning power trip. And in that pause, as sunlight glinted off the locked metal, I realized I was already forming a plan. One Karen would never see coming. The delivery driver tapped his horn again. A sharp, urgent reminder of the time slipping away. My hands curled in two fists. My pulse thundered. Then I noticed it. First, her shadow, long, sharp, trying to dominate more space than any one person should. But then I saw her phone already in her hand, her fingers tapping rapidly like she was calling in backup for her imaginary fortress. My heart sank for a moment. Calling the board meant delays, paperwork, and lectures. But as I watched her, something clicked. The absurdity of it all could be turned into a weapon. I stepped closer, carefully navigating the gravel, and forced a tight smile. You know, Karen, I said, keeping my tone deceptively calm, almost conversational. This whole situation is really making me rethink how much I value rules over humanity. Her eyes snapped to mine, sharp and suspicious. Excuse me. I gestured toward the truck down the street. My baby's coffin is sitting right there, waiting. I can't exactly reschedule this. And here's the thing, rules don't care about life or death. Humans do. I'm human, Karen. And you're technically human. Aren't we supposed to help each other? She shook her head, lips pursed like I'd suggested parking a rusty motorcycle on her precious azaleas. I don't make exceptions. The board, I cut her off, my voice harder this time. Listen, I'm not asking for an exception. I'm asking for decency. You can either unlock this gate, or I'm going to make sure you never enjoy another one of your little rulebook parades without the entire neighborhood knowing exactly what you did today. Her eyes narrowed for a heartbeat. I wondered if I'd pushed too far, but then her lips twitched just slightly. The smallest crack in her armor, and I knew I had her attention. I leaned in a bit, lowering my voice, but sharpening the words. See, Karen, the delivery truck has cameras. My phone has cameras. This whole little performance, the locked gate, your refusal, that's documented. And I've got neighbors, community forums, and a very public audience that would love a story like this. So if this doesn't end right now, her face paled beneath the mask of superiority. I could almost hear her thoughts, sprinting. This wasn't about rules anymore. This was about her image. And Karen valued her reputation more than oxygen. I straightened, taking a slow breath to control the adrenaline shaking under my skin. I don't want to fight. I don't want to embarrass you. But I'm not letting my grief sit behind a locked gate. Her fingers hovered above her phone, jaw tightening, a sign she'd realized she might be backed into a corner. Then she let out a dramatic sigh, the kind she reserved for imagined burdens, and reached for the latch. Fine, she muttered. Go. But don't think this is over. I caught the little smirk she tried to hide, her attempt to reclaim victory. She had no idea what was coming. The truck rolled forward, the coffin now safely making its way into my driveway. Relief coursed through me, warm but temporary. My heart was still pounding. Karen stood by the gate with her arms crossed, chest puffed like she'd just prevented a national security breach. A smug smile stretched across her face, the kind that made you want to erase it with the truth. I walked toward her slowly, letting the calm after the storm settle over the moment. Thank you, I said sweetly, dripping honeyed politeness she wasn't prepared for. She blinked, confused, clearly unfamiliar with gratitude delivered without groveling. You're welcome, she said, unsure. I let a faint, ironic smile slide in. Yes. And I just want to make sure something's clear. This could have gone very differently. So I've taken steps to make sure everyone knows exactly how cooperative you were today. Her eyes narrowed, body going stiff with defensiveness. I don't understand, she said. Oh, I think you do. I pulled my phone from my pocket. A few taps later, the screen lit with photos, the locked gate, her expression, the stalled delivery truck, the neighborhood in the background. I'd already sent them to the HOA group chat and to a few chatty neighbors who adored a good scandal. I have video too, I added lightly. Just in case your memory gets fuzzy. Her complexion shifted from pale to boiling red, like a kettle about to whistle. You wouldn't, she stammered, caught between fury and humiliation. Oh, I would, I replied calmly. And I did. But here's the thing, I'm not trying to ruin you. I want you to feel the weight of what it means to put petty rules above basic humanity. Consider this a courtesy lesson. She opened her mouth, closed it, then stared at the ground. I could practically see her realizing her carefully polished image had a brand new crack running straight through it. She straightened painfully, lips tight, but the triumph she normally wore like a perfume was gone. What remained was quiet, simmering embarrassment. I turned away, heading back toward my house. My chest still ached, but I felt lighter than I had in days. The coffin was finally inside safe, sheltered, and that alone brought a fragile sense of relief. I glanced back at Karen one last time. She stood rigid at the gate, eyes darting between me and the neighbors' homes. Knowing she'd lost a battle she never expected to fight. Some lessons don't need shouting. They settle in the silence, sharp and unforgettable. And as I closed my front door behind me, I knew this was one she'd carry for a very long time. The gate remained metal and cold, the rules unchanged, but the weight of that day landed right on her shoulders. A heavier latch than any HOA regulation could ever compare to. If this story hit home, tap like, because ordinary people deserve the right to push back against nonsense. Subscribe to Karen's Hub for more real stories of standing your ground. And tell me below, how would you handle a Karen like this?